Since we have this new right perspective here, and I'm not sure if everyone knows about this new right perspective. What does the new right perspective? Is it a sociological perspective? Number one, no, it's not a sociological perspective. Number two, when we talk about this new right perspective, what is it that they believe about families? How do they think families should be like? To keep it simple, what I'd suggest everyone to keep in mind is, according to the new right perspective, if you have a look at this arrow over here, according to the new right perspective, they believe or they support the idea of traditional nuclear families. This is the first thing that I'd want everyone to keep in mind. And when we talk about the new right perspective supporting the idea of traditional nuclear families, in other words, we can say कि आपके पास जो फैमिली डाइवर्सिटी होती है या द डिफरेंट वेरिएशंस इन टर्म्स ऑफ families that we have, they're all opposed by the new right perspective, right? So new right perspective, number one, supports traditional nuclear families, and which automatically makes them go against the idea of family diversity. According to them, a traditional typical heterosexual couple is the best family form that individuals could have in a society, right? The new right perspective is based on the idea that the traditional nuclear family, consisting of two heterosexual married adults with clearly defined gender roles and relationship, is the institution that is best equipped to provide the base on which all other social institutions, social relationships are built. Now, you know what? When the new right perspective is supporting a traditional nuclear family, this pretty much gives them a reason to be not liked by feminists, right? Feminism, or if we talk about feminists in general, they do not really like this idea of the new right perspective, where they claim that a nuclear family is the best or the most appropriate family form. For the new right, diversity represents a family breakdown. See this. Let me highlight this for you all. Now, this is what I had said, right? For them, diversity represents a family breakdown that has significant consequences for both individual members and wider social relationship. Stable nuclear family relationships provide emotional and psychological benefits to family members. In turn, these benefit society as a whole because each adult partner plays a role that involves both personal sacrifice and commitment to others. To keep it very simple, according to the new right perspective, आपके पास फैमिली डाइवर्सिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए. You know what, family diversity hona ya na hona, we can involve the role that the state plays over here as well, or the government plays over here as well. Do you know what, family diversity society may ho ya na ho, the government or the state has a very important role over here to play. For instance, if we talk about Pakistan, in Pakistan we do not have in Pakistan, homosexual marriages are not allowed. End of story, full stop. Right? It's the state that is gives permission, right? And likewise, we talk about many other Western countries. There are so many Western countries where we have homosexuality. We see homosexuality has gained recognition and acceptance. So, according to the new right perspective, it is the state plays a very important role over here. And you know what, if we talk about a traditional typical nuclear family being supported, that automatically means that we would have fewer single parent families. And when we talk about fewer single parent families, in other words, what I'm trying to explain over here is, according to the new right perspective, again, if we add in the role that the state can play, according to the new right perspective, आपका state again एक बहुत important contribution ला सकता है when it comes to single parenthood. If I'll give you a very simple example over here. If the state keeps on coming up with policies that facilitate single motherhood, that facilitate single parent families, don't you think that might lead to an increase in single parenthood? That would, right? So according to the new right perspective, the state has a very important role, a very important contribution over here, and the state should comes up with rules and regulations that support a nuclear family and are not really supporting family diversity. Do we all get this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Everyone
जी सर.
here. From this perspective, the idea that all types of family structures are equal is wrong, according to the new right perspective, because it challenges the moral commitment to others that lies at the heart of social responsibility. Number one. Number two, the new right endorses social policies that encourage beneficial family structures and discourage forms such as single parenthood that are regarded as damaging to both individuals and communities. Very simple example that you could use over here is, according to the new right perspective, single parenthood means a child would be taken care of one parent that would leave the which because single parenthood is usually single parent family is usually headed by females. So the general idea over here is that the woman would now have an option to either stay back home and look after the child or take care of the bread and butter. तो अगर आप लोग if she leaves home and starts earning money, that means there would be no one to take care of the child at home, which can result in inadequate socialization, and inadequate socialization of a child can result in future social problems. If a child is not adequately socialized, this can lead to an increase in deviant activities by the individual that is eventually going to affect the society, because these deviant acts today can lead to criminal acts tomorrow. And to remind you all again, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा, ये न्यू राइट पर्सपेक्टिव क्लेम करता है। करेक्ट। तो जब न्यू राइट पर्सपेक्टिव आपका सिर्फ और सिर्फ न्यूक्लियर फैमिली को सपोर्ट कर रहा है, दैट ऑटोमेटिकली मींस दे वुड बी अगेंस्ट द आइडिया ऑफ कोहैबिटेशन एज वेल. For example, they claim Morgan 2000 argue Morgan's 2000 argument against cohabitation, for example, illustrates this interpretation of family diversity as a source of social problems by suggesting that cohabitation suffers from important flaws when compared to marriage. Though, according to the New Right perspective, the state should come up with policies that only support a nuclear family. In that case, family diversity in whatever form should be discouraged, cohabitation should be discouraged, single parenthood should be discouraged, right? So, over here, we're talking about a comparison between couples who cohabit and couples who are married. So, we're talking about the comparison between cohabitation and marriage. Okay, let's talk about the flaws of cohabitation. Number one, cohabiting relationships are more unstable and less likely to last than marriages are. The second point, the sexual behavior of cohabiting people is more likely that is more like that of single people, like they may have other partners as well. Number three, cohabitants with children who marry are more likely to divorce. Many cohabiting women will become single parents eventually. Number four, this relationship is more likely to be cruel or abusive. Both women and children are at greater risk of physical and sexual abuse than they would be in a married relationship. So we are talking about the flaws that are there in cohabitation according to Morgan. Do we all understand this?
Yes, sir.
Everyone gets this?
Yes, sir.
Yes
Yes, sir.
sir.
All right. Now, if we have a paper structure in front of us, right, we could possibly get a question like we could get an 8 mark question over here that might say, explain two ways in which cohabitation no explain two ways in which marriage is better than cohabitation, or something along those lines, right? You've seen how you get an 8 mark question in your paper where they ask you to explain. If you talk about the specimen paper, in a specimen paper, the question that we have is, explain two ways in which the family supports capitalism according to Marxist. तो आपके पास इसी तरीके से यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, explain two ways in which cohabitation is detrimental for the society according to the new right perspective. Should I write it down?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, remember, dear, if they're asking you to write down two ways, you're supposed to write down two ways only, right? It's about you being able to develop a particular point. Get it, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
I want everyone to read through these 4 points once. Read through these 4 points once on your own. Now, in further support of a nuclear family and the idea that we should support a nuclear family and discourage all other alternative forms, according to the New Right perspective, family diversity is undesirable. Family diversity can lead to a dysfunctional society. Family diversity can lead to a moral chaos, right? So, I'm sure you all do see the extent to which the new right perspective is against the idea of family diversity. And yeah, whenever we get a question on family diversity, of course you can bring in the new right perspective. Though, as a counter argument, more generally, new right approaches argue that family and relationship diversity is undesirable and dysfunctional. This can lead to a moral chaos in which some behaviors, such as abortion practices that take no account of the rights of the unborn, produce morally undesirable results. A counter to family breakdown, therefore, is family uniformity. The traditional heterosexual nuclear family is seen as more desirable than other family structures because it provides social, economic, and psychological stability. According to the New Right perspective, a traditional heterosexual nuclear family is the best family form because it provides social, economic, and psychological stability, family continuity, and successful primary socialization. In such an environment, traditional family values can be emphasized and reinforced, creating a sense of individual and social responsibility. According to the New Right perspective, आपकी typical nuclear family leads to a sense of individual and social responsibility amongst individuals that forms a barrier against what the New Right see as selfishness. So they are referring to family diversity as selfishness. According to them, in a nuclear family, individuals, they compromise. Individuals, both the partners, they have their own role to play in terms of bringing in stability in the family and the society in large. Horwitz in 2005 argues that within the traditional family, children and adults learn moral values that they take into wider social relationship. Traditional nuclear families therefore are seen as a vital source of both individual happiness and social stability because they have a moral core that involves: number one, caring for family members; number two, taking responsibility for both their own behavior and that of the children; number three, unconditional economic cooperation; number four, the development of stable, successful interpersonal relationship. Now, you know what, we can again get a question on this where we could, I mean, the examiner could directly ask us about how the new right perspective supports a nuclear family. Get it?
Yes, sir.
uh, if you want, I'll just write down a question for you. Write this.
Sir, can you zoom in a little bit क्योंकि थोड़ा blurry है.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, now that we're done writing this down, so yeah, I hope everyone does get this bit.
Yes, sir, I get it.
Let's move on and have a look at the criticism that the New Right perspective has faced. Number one, according to the New Right perspective, as I had said a couple of minutes earlier, according to the New Right perspective, East or West, it's the nuclear family that is the best, right? Don't you think this is a one size fits all formula that they're trying to apply on everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And again, the more, I mean, okay, now we're talking about, now we're trying to criticize the ideas that were put forward by the new right perspective. Just because a particular family form, that is a nuclear family in this case, is suitable or works out well for some, doesn't mean it would work out well for all. Right now, again, there's a possibility. I mean, we cannot just ignore the darker side of the family. There are instances where there's a lot of domestic violence, a lot of domestic abuse that individuals experience. There are people who end up living in a toxic family, right? So critics of the new right approach argue that it is based on an idealized view of white middle class families as the desirable norm. It advocates a one size fits all family that is no longer appropriate today. It also ignores the darker side of traditional family life, making divorce more difficult. For example, now making divorce more difficult, this is something again that the state can do, right? The state can bring in changes that can make obtaining divorce difficult. So making divorce more difficult, for example, may indeed persuade some to try to make their marriage work, but it also traps others in a loveless relationship characterized by violence and abuse. We could talk about an empty shell marriage over here. Do we all understand this?
Ji, sir.
Now, I'd share a document with you all that is about the new right perspective, and I'd want everyone to read through it. All right?
Right, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
This is what it was that I wanted everyone to go through, and I mean to write down. And there's this another document that I want to show you all. All right, I'd want everyone to read through this as well. Read through this, everyone. You may take a screenshot of this page.
Okay, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, let
No,
me
sir.
file so that you can read it easily. So yeah, this was the document I wanted everyone to read. And if you are done reading till here, if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this, you may. And let me take this a step ahead. This part now. Yeah, give this read as well. You may take a screenshot of this as well if you want. Let's proceed with this part. Now, the points that we all see over here, the question that we had written down about how cohabitation is bad or problematic for family, you could add up material from here as well for that. The 8 mark question. Now, if you've done reading with this, we move on towards this part. Now, especially the latter part that you've read, you'd find this pretty similar to what you have in your book. This would give you more of content to write. You'd be able to develop your points better. The more you read when it comes to sociology, the better it ends up being for you. The more you read, the more you write, the better you'd keep on getting at it. So yeah, this brings the new right perspective to an end, and the next topic that we have on this page over here, page number 98, is postmodern optimism.